Tyler from Aspire Sports. Today's video, I'm going to give you my top 12 running back rankings for the 2021 fantasy football draft. I haven't done a video in a while updating my rankings, and we've had some big news. We had, obviously Cam Akers tear his Achilles, so he's done for the year. You have Carson Wentz. So how does that affect Jonathan Taylor? Is Saquon going to be ready for week 1? So I feel like I should update my rankings, and this will probably change as we get closer to the season. But that's why you should subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest content. So if it does change, you're able to see the updated list. So one last thing I do want to say before I get into the video is you should draft by tiers in fantasy football. And what I mean by that is instead of doing rankings, like the tiers will still be in rankings, but if you do rankings, it's, oh, this player is higher than this player, so I guess I should draft this player. Where tiers, it gives you more flexibility. Who are guys that are very similar to the other guy, maybe not in play style, but in terms of how many fantasy points they can score, they're similar. So it gives you more flexibility that way. I'll have my own rankings. Everything will be up August 9th. August 9th, my own rankings, projections. I'll break them down by tiers, top 60, everything to help you win your fantasy football drafts August 9th. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Coming in at number 1, and it should be no surprise, is Christian McCaffrey. He's the consensus number 1. It's him, Dalvin Cook. That's the consensus 1 and 2 this season. Then it gets different after that, but Christian McCaffrey is number 1. If Christian McCaffrey plays a full season, he'll be the number 1 running back overall. Even if he plays 15 games, I still think he will finish as RB number 1. He's the best dual threat in fantasy football when it comes to rushing and receiving, so he's the easy number 1. It should come as no surprise. Yes, you could say, well, what happens if he gets hurt? You can say that for every single running back, right? There's always the possibility that they get hurt. Last year, he had a high ankle sprain and then had a shoulder injury. They weren't even related. So I don't really hold that against him. And I do think he could have came back last season, but it was just such a weird year with no off season. They had nothing to play for. So I just think that they were like, screw it. This year's loss. Next season, he'll be ready to go. So Christian McCaffrey, easy number 1 for me. Coming in at number 2, no surprise, Dalvin Cook, right? It's a clear number 1 and a clear number 2. Like I said, this upcoming season, Dalvin Cook is the clear number 2. I don't think it's close between him and Christian McCaffrey. Dalvin Cook just isn't going to see anywhere near the receptions that Christian McCaffrey is projected to see. So I don't think it's close, but Dalvin Cook is a very good player, is one of the most explosive running backs in the NFL. So rightfully is there at number 2. So Dalvin Cook, number 2. Coming in at number 2 for me is going to be Alvin Kamara. And this is where things might start to get a little bit different because I've seen a lot of people start dropping Alvin Kamara in their ranks because you have Michael Thomas get hurt, and some people are now projecting Taysom Hill to be the starting quarterback there. So number 1, I don't care that Michael Thomas got hurt. Well, obviously I do care. I wish him the best of luck. But in terms of Alvin Kamara's outlook, I don't think that affects Alvin Kamara at all. I think it makes Alvin Kamara's outlook even better because when we didn't see Michael Thomas for a majority of the season last year, Alvin Kamara finishes number 1 as the running back, number 1 running back overall. So I think it's fine for Alvin Kamara if Michael Thomas doesn't even play this season, which he's supposed to be coming back like maybe week 7, week 10, don't know. I imagine he'll be back this season. It's just late. It will be later in the season is when we'll see him. So I don't think that affects Alvin Kamara at all. And Taysom Hill being the quarterback, I don't think he's going to be the quarterback. I think it will be Jameis Winston. I think we'll know sooner than later though, because it's going to be like a different offense with Taysom Hill as the quarterback than Jameis Winston. But I think Jameis Winston's the most talented quarterback. So I think he'll be the quarterback. And even if Taysom Hill is the quarterback, yes, there was like 2 games last year where Alvin Kamara didn't have a good week because Taysom Hill was the quarterback. But then we saw in that 3rd game against Atlanta, he was completely fine. I think that he'll be fine if Taysom Hill is the quarterback. I still think that Jameis will be the quarterback. But even if he's not, he's still running back number 3 for me. I'm not worried. So Alvin Kamara, RB number 3 for me. Coming in at RB number 4 for me is going to be Ezekiel Elliott. And this is somebody that, as long as Dak was back with this team, somebody that was inside my top 5. And last year we saw a Zeke that some people were pretty disappointed about, but he still basically finished inside the top 10 at the running back position. Somebody throughout his career has done nothing but produce in fantasy football. And 1 year he got suspended for 6 games. He still finishes RB number 10 that year. So absolutely he can produce. I saw what Mike McCarthy said. He could maybe manage his workload a little bit, not give him 25 to 30 touches a game, which obviously, like, let's not do that. So he's fresh throughout the season. He's still going to be somebody who's going to touch the ball a lot. Last year in the first 4 games was RB number 4 with Dak Prescott, and he was on pace to see over 120 targets through those games. I don't expect that to happen, but last year saw 71 targets. Can easily do that again. So yes, draft Zeke inside the top 5. And if he's going later than that, draft him. Pull the trigger and draft him because he's going to be value. He's a top 5 back year in and year out. So Ezekiel Elliott, number 4. Coming in at number 5 for me is going to be Derrick Henry. And this is very, very close. This is why I say draft in tiers, because these two guys would be in the same tier with Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones for me. I love Aaron Jones, but I'm just giving the slight edge to Derrick Henry just because this is a guy who's going to see the ball 300 plus times, right? With Aaron Jones, he relies on efficiency, which I still think he's going to be very efficient this upcoming season. But if that efficiency drops a tiny bit, or maybe A.J. Dillon eats into the red zone presence that Aaron Jones has had over the past 2 years a little bit more than what we expect, it's going to hurt Aaron Jones' value a little bit. With Derrick Henry, it's just not going to happen. He's the alpha in this backfield by a large number. Nobody's going to touch any of his touches except maybe the receiving work a tiny bit. Somebody might come in like a McNichols and steal some work there. But in terms of his rushing attempts, he's the guy. He's going to get fed. He's somebody over the past 2 years has finished inside the top 5 both years. Yes, he doesn't have the PPR capability that these other running backs have, but he's still a stud, right? He's still a stud. So Derrick Henry, number 5 for me. Coming in at RB number 6 for me is going to be Aaron Jones. And this is a guy, like I said, with Derrick Henry, where it's very, very close between him and Derrick Henry. But if we do see a little drop-off in terms of efficiency from Aaron Jones, that is going to hurt him more than like your Derrick Henry, because there isn't going to be that massive amount of volume to make up for it. I do think that Aaron Jones is going to see Jamal Williams receiving work, where Jamal Williams last year, he had, I believe, like 240 passing down snaps that he played on and saw 35 targets. So I think a lot of that's going to go to Aaron Jones, but Aaron Jones might lose some carries to A.J. Dillon to keep him fresh to kind of balance it out. So I'm not worried about Aaron Jones in the slightest. I think he's an absolute stud and will be this upcoming season, but there is the possibility that A.J. Dillon maybe plays a little bit in the red zone, a little bit more than what I anticipate, and also steals a little bit of his work in terms of the rushing attempts. But I still think Aaron Jones is an absolute stud, and he's RB number 6 for me. Coming in at RB number 7 is going to be Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb just signed a contract, an extension with the Cleveland Browns. So this is their guy of the future, all right? And he should be, because I've said this, I've been very vocal about this as well. He is the best running back in football, the best pure running back, and he's a better receiving back than what we get to see because you have Kareem Hunt. If Kareem Hunt wasn't on this team, you would be drafting Nick Chubb inside the top 3. I believe he would be 3rd right next to Dalvin Cook. You might even be drafting him over Dalvin Cook. That's how good Nick Chubb is, and we might be able to see that next season, maybe without Kareem Hunt, but we'll see. But for this upcoming season, he is a little bit capped because of Kareem Hunt. He's just not going to see the receiving work that these other guys are going to see. Well, Derrick Henry isn't going to see any, but I do think that Nick Chubb can be close to Derrick Henry in terms of his rushing ability, and then he also has the upside of a little bit more receiving work than what Derrick Henry is going to see. So you have that with Nick Chubb. That's why for me, he's number 7. Yes, I know that Kareem Hunt is there, but you have a team that's a run-first team, one of the best offenses in the NFL, offensive lines in the NFL, and then you also have a very good defense as well. So this should be a really good team, and Nick Chubb is going to be the focal point of this offense. So Nick Chubb, number 7. Coming in as RB number 8 for me is going to be Saquon Barkley, and the reason why he's low, he definitely feels low to me, is just, does he play week 1? Is he on a limited workload for the first few weeks? Like, what happens here? Because when you have a player that usually players are like overly confident in their ability, right? And for a player to say he's not sure if he's going to be ready for week 1 just doesn't sound confident at all. It makes me a little bit worried. And quite honestly, I want to see what's going to happen as we progress through the preseason here. Because if he's not sure for week 1 and he's going to miss week 1, then when is he honestly going to come back? Like, I feel like this is a situation with Dalvin Cook a few years ago where you don't really see him for a little bit, and he's also going to be on a limited workload. So especially if you're in like a head-to-head league where you don't have your first overall draft pick possibly for the first couple of games, when winning games is ultra important, right? Like, that's not good. So I don't really have a whole lot of interest in Saquon until I know what's really going on and is he going to be ready. But I will say this, and why he's ranked number 8 for me is, even if he isn't 100% this season and he's like 80%, and 80% Saquon Barkley is better than majority of the running backs in the NFL. It's just, I want to know if he's going to be there. How many games is he possibly going to miss? And if it's none, then if you're drafting today and you're getting him at number 8, hey, that's great value there for you. But for me, I'm a little bit more cautious when it comes to this kind of stuff. And if I end up missing on him because, you know, I'm a little bit cautious because I'm not sure if he's going to play, that's fine. I can live with that, all right? I can completely live with that. So that's why for me, Saquon is at number 8 instead of higher. Coming in at RB number 9 for me is going to be Jonathan Taylor. And yes, I do think that Jonathan Taylor is a little bit low here, but then you have to look at Carson Wentz, who's now out indefinitely with a foot injury. So do we actually see Carson Wentz this upcoming season? How many games is he going to play? All up in the air at the moment. And now you have a team that currently has Jacob Eason on as their starting quarterback right now. I know that they did just sign Brent Hundley. I don't know how exactly you say his last name, but he did have that brief stint with the Green Bay Packers where really he wasn't impressive. But now you have Jacob Eason, who couldn't even back up Phillip Rivers last year. It was Jacoby Brissett. So how good is he really, right? So we get into this situation where if these guys are going to be the starting quarterbacks for this team this upcoming season, they're not anywhere near Phillip Rivers. And honestly, I didn't think Carson Wentz was much better than Phillip Rivers, but we saw what Jonathan Taylor was capable of last year with Phillip Rivers. So I think that Carson Wentz was going to be okay enough for Jonathan Taylor to be good. But these other guys, I just don't have any faith. And if the Colts don't do anything to make a move for a quarterback, Jonathan Taylor is going to be back here. I do think that Jonathan Taylor is going to be heavily involved in this offense, but how efficient is it going to truly be when you don't even really have good wide receivers on the outside as well? I know that Michael Pittman Jr. is a up-and-coming wide receiver, but still, like, he's not a Jerry Jeudy or Justin Jefferson, and then you have an old T.Y. Hilton who's on the back nine of his career, so, like, the wide receivers aren't going to really make up for the bad quarterback play as well. So this offense, I just don't like this offense a whole lot without a decent quarterback, which I below both these quarterbacks are below average quarterbacks. So that's why for me, Jonathan Taylor is currently here. We have to see what fully is going to happen with Carson Wentz, but right now it doesn't look good. So Jonathan Taylor, number 9. Coming in at number 10 is going to be Najee Harris. And if you've listened to this channel, you know I'm a Steelers fan, okay? So maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I will say that these next two guys, I believe, are like basically 100% in terms of bell cow backs for their respective teams. So Najee Harris, I'm a Steelers fan, and I know that Najee Harris, if you've watched Steelers, if you've followed them throughout the years, they use one back, okay? Najee Harris is going to be their guy. He's going to be their 3-down back that is rarely going to come off the field. This is their first running back that Pittsburgh has selected in the first round since Rashard Mendenhall. And Rashard Mendenhall cost the Steelers a Super Bowl against the Packers. You son of a bitch. That's a little extreme. But he was their starting running back. He saw all the touches. I expect Najee Harris to see all the touches. He won't really come off the field. Yes, I know that there's some concern about Ben. I'm not really even worried about Ben. I'm more worried about the offensive line, which obviously a lot of people are also worried about the offensive line. But I do think that the offensive line is going to be better than what's anticipated because now you have Trey Turner that they signed. You also have Kevin Dotson, who was pretty good last season, actually was graded pretty well by Pro Football Focus. You have Zach Banner, who tore his ACL the second game of the season last year. He's now back. You have Chucks, who is all right. And then their center, it depends on who their center is. They have Kendrick Green, who was actually graded pretty well by Pro Football Focus in college, that is a rookie this incoming season. So I don't think this offensive line is going to be very good to start, but they're going to gel as the season progresses and get better. So I don't really care, though. Najee Harris is, like I said, never going to come off the field, so is going to be heavily involved in this offense. We'll see plenty of targets, so he's somebody I feel very good about if he's my RB1. So Najee Harris for me, running back number 10. Coming in at RB number 11, Joe Mixon. And this is somebody who, it broke my heart last year, right? I was very, very high on Joe Mixon, and then he gets that foot injury, and it was very weird. They don't put him on IR until like the last few weeks of the season after Joe Burrow gets hurt. So it was very weird. I definitely think he could have came back earlier as well, but it was one of those situations they just paid the guy. They know that they're not a very good team this season. Next year, they're going to be a better team after they probably were planning on taking Jamar Chase. So I don't feel like they wanted to rush him back and load him up with carries. This upcoming season, there's no more Gio, okay? Gio is gone. They don't have a pass-catching back. He's going to be their workhorse. They already came out and said this. So I feel very good about drafting Joe Mixon this year than what I did last year. Injuries happen. Anybody can get hurt, right? So they suck. Yes, they suck. But for Joe Mixon, if he gets hurt this season, hey, we can say he's injury prone. But I still don't even think he's really injury prone. I think he'll see a very good workload this upcoming season. Will be heavily involved in this offense. This offensive line should be better than what they were last year as well. So Joe Mixon for me, running back number 11. Coming in as RB number 12. And this is somebody that I do want to move up, right? He was at RB number 10, and it's very hard, but that's why you draft by tiers, because these guys are all in the same tier, I believe. But you have Austin Ekeler for me coming in as RB number 12. He now has Joe Lombardi as the offensive coordinator, so you have a guy from New Orleans who had Alvin Kamara, right? We saw what Alvin Kamara can do, so he's going to basically kind of play that Alvin Kamara role, Austin Ekeler, so he can catch a ton of passes. It's just for me, I'd rather have that true bell cow back than Austin Ekeler, but it's very, very close. And once again, that's why you just draft by tiers. If you like Austin Ekeler over Najee Harris, I'm not going to fault you for that. Like, it is very close for me. Austin Ekeler, especially in full point PPR, yes, absolutely, I have him ahead of those guys. But like in your half point and especially standard, no, he's not there. So in my half point PPR, I have Austin Ekeler at number 12, but I do expect him to catch a lot of passes, be heavily involved in that passing game this upcoming season. So Austin Ekeler, number 12, and that does it. If you disagree with me, I mean, let me know down in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Who's somebody that I'm maybe lower on, that I should be high on, or vice versa? Maybe you think that there's somebody that's missing from the top 12 that should be inside the top 12. Let me know. So thanks for watching the video, and have a great day.